Back at Capital Casino, we jump into a 1-3 game that has gone all night. There's two players driving most of the action. 30 minutes in, I finally pick up a pair of aces. Decide to raise from the big blind after everyone limps. I make it 25. I do get 3 callers for the 25, so we're going to end up going 4 ways to this flop with a little over $100 in the middle. Dealer collects all the chips, and we're off to a flop that comes King 10 deuce with 2 spades. So pretty good flop for our hand. We might get action from a king, a straight draw, a flush draw, and with 3 players, I think about a half-size pot bet would do. So I make it $50. Hoping to get 1 player to come along, but not all 3. In fact, we end up getting everyone to fold, and we win our first hand of the day. There was an $8 straddle. Player raised to 20. I got 2 5s from middle position-ish. I decided to put in a call. It's pretty loose after a opening raise, but it was a small raise. The straddler does put in the call, so it's just going to be a 3 of us headed off to a flop, which comes out 9-7-6 with 2 hearts. Not the greatest flop for our hand. Both players checked to me quickly. I decided to check this back. Turn card comes as a 7 of diamonds. Now the straddler leads out for $25. He is one of the most active players at the table, and he doesn't have to have anything here to make that bet. So he could have a straight draw, could have a flush draw. I got a pair of 5s. It's pretty loose, but I decided to put in the call for the $25. Overall, I think he has a fairly weak hand. So my thoughts were, if he checks to me, I'll go ahead and fire and take down the pot. And if he makes some sort of block bet, that I was going to put in a raise and see if I can get him off a slightly better hand than mine. Well, the river card comes, and it is a king of spades. So we don't make anything, but I don't think he makes anything either. And he bets out again small for $25. Feels like a block bet to me. And usually when someone has a block bet, they don't want to get raised. I chose a poor sizing. I made it $100. I wanted it to look like value, but this type of player, I think I just need to go bigger here, like 100% of the time. I think a bet of 150 would probably be big enough. He thinks there's something fishy about the whole thing. He can't understand why he wouldn't raise, and he doesn't really think the king made me. I might have picked the wrong opponent to try to make this move on. He does get very sticky, and he likes to make hero calls. And that's what he does. He calls for the $75 more. I tell him I have a pair of 5s, and he shows 10-9 for top pair on the flop. Every dealer change, we've been playing a $15 bomb pot. This is, I believe, the second one we played. And here I'm sitting here with a Jack-9 offsuit, a premium hand if you ever seen one. But it does improve quite a bit when the flop comes Jack-9 deuce with 2 diamonds. So I got top 2 pair, and everyone checks over to me. I bet $50. I think I need to go bigger. I have to go like 75 at least. I got to protect that hand. There's a lot of draws out there. My sizing's pretty small. I think I'm going to get some loose calls, and I do get 1 caller from the player in the cutoff. Now, he is not a tight player, you might say. He would put in some questionable calls, even in bomb pots. But he could definitely have a straight draw or a flush draw. So when the 8 of diamonds comes, I'm really not liking it at all. But I can't be afraid that he made a flush here. And I can still get value from a lot of his jacks, like Jack-10, Queen-Jack. So I end up betting $50, hoping not to get shoved down or raised big, because then I feel like I might have to give this thing up. He takes his time and finally decides to make the call for the $50. Well, the good news is I didn't get raised. Hopefully I can just get the showdown without any other scare cards coming up here to scare me out of the pot. River card's a good one. It's a 5 of hearts. I don't think I can get value from any of his draws. I decided to check it. Hopefully he doesn't bomb it, because I would have to make a tough decision whether he had a flush or not. After some thought, he decides just to check it back, and he shows down that he had a pair of 9s with the queen of diamonds for a flush and a straight draw. We're in the small blind with ace queen of diamonds. There were a couple people that limped in. I decided to make it $25 with my premium hand. I end up getting 2 callers. Both of the players are fairly active, so I don't mind the action. Hopefully we can hit a flop and get some value from these hands. Flop comes out 8-7 deuce with 2 clubs. So we completely whiff this thing, and it's a good flop for my opponent's range, so I decided to go ahead and check. Player from middle position makes a pretty good sized bet of $65. So I think he really has something here. I don't think it's a draw. I figure it's at least a pair of 8s. The next player puts in a quick call for the 65, and definitely we have to release this. There's nothing we can do with ace queen in this spot. We don't have any clubs. I kind of kept the camera rolling just to see what would happen because it was a pretty big bet on his part. It did come out a queen of clubs, so we would have made top pair, but there is a flush possible out there. And then when the 5 of clubs comes on the river, I really wouldn't like top pair anyway. The player who ended up leading on the flop had ace-8 with the ace of clubs. So he flopped top pair, nut kicker, and a backdoor flush draw, and he got there. I'm in the small blind with 10-8 suited. There is a raise, and I decide to call from the small blind and defend. We go 4 ways to a flop that comes out jack-7 deuce with 2 hearts. It is the jack of clubs and not the jack of hearts. It gets checked over to the initial aggressor, who bets for $35. Action folds to me, and with this player's c-bet range is pretty high. I mean, he usually c-bets close to 100%, so he doesn't have to have anything good. If he happens to have a jack-high flush draw, I'm going to be in a world of hurt. But with all the equity I have, I'm going to play this one a little bit faster, being out of position. The main reason is if he has something like an ace high or king high or a pair of 6s or something like that, he definitely has 10 high beat, and I think I put a little pressure on him with a high equity hand like a straight and a flush draw. It'll definitely be worth my while. The other player folds out. He tanks for a while, says that was a good bet, and he ends up mucking his hand. Seems like we're picking up ace-queen quite a bit. There's like a couple of times I had it that I haven't shown, but here I'm under the gun. I open for $15, and I get a slew of callers for the $15. In fact, it seemed like everyone wants to play, and nobody wants to re-raise. So with 6 people seeing this flop for 15, hoping for something good because we're going to have to really smash it. It comes 10, 8, 6, rainbow. Yeah, we're done with this one. Even if I catch a free card, I might not like it. So when someone bets small for $20, it's a very small bet. A lot of times you would take one off for such a cheap price, but I have a feeling with all these players, it's just going to get me in trouble. So when it comes back around to me, it's only $20, but I'm out of here. All right, we got our favorite hand again, ace queen. Again, we go ahead and put in a raise. There was a $6 straddle. We made it 30. We get 2 people calling for the 30. The blinds and the straddles drop on out. So it's just going to be the 3 of us heading off to a flop. Thinking of an ace or a queen. But you know, you never get exactly what you want. This one comes 10-7-7 rainbow. Pretty good flop. If they don't have a 7 or a 10, we're probably good. I decided to go ahead and bet this like I had a pair bigger than the 10. So I bet $60. If I get called or raised, I'm just going to have to give up on this one. But they both fold and we win another small one. All right, finally we get a pair of queens. Open for a raise to $20. End up getting 3 callers for the $20. And we're going to go 4 ways to a flop that comes ace, king, 6 with 2 hearts. Not a great flop. I checked. It gets checked around. Turn card is another heart. Definitely nothing for me. I check. Player bets half pot. The other 2 players fold out. And nothing you can do here. You just got to give it up and hope to hit it next time. So when the other 2 players fold out, I go ahead and fold quickly, and we move on to the next hand. Here I got a pair of nines in the +1 position. There is a straddle on, and I decided to open for $30. I figure a larger opening size might limit the field a little bit more. And with a pair of nines, you definitely don't want multi-way action. But you know, the way life is and the way the game is over at Capital Casino, sometimes you get more action than you ever thought you would. Here we get 4 people putting in the call for the $30. So we're going 5 ways to a flop with $153 in. And the flop comes out good. It comes 7-5 deuce with 2 diamonds. So I think I have the best hand here. Question is, what sizing should I use? Normally I go for about a third sizing, but I think that as sticky as these players are, I can go a little bit higher without actually losing action from the players I want action from. So I make it $65. I figure I can get 1 or 2 players coming along, probably someone with a 7 and maybe someone with some sort of draw, like a flush draw or a straight draw. I get 2 callers and we see the ace of clubs on the turn. It really shouldn't hit anyone unless they had 3-4 or the ace high flush draw. But I decided to check it just to keep the pot small. River card comes as a 6 of hearts, really connects with that board, 7-6, 5-6. I just decided to check it back when it came to me, just trying to get the showdown. Both players had a 7 in their hand. One of them had a 10-7, and I could beat that. So I'm in the big blind with 9-8 suited. There was 1 limp, and then a player raised to 16. He's been very active, so I'm going to give him some action. I go ahead and make the call for the 16, and so does the player behind me. So we're going to go 3 ways to this flop. That comes 5-3 deuce with 2 diamonds. So a really good flop for my hand, and I decided to check it though, see what the other players do, and they all checked it back. Turn card comes as 6 of diamonds, puts up a possible straight. I bet $20. I just don't want to give someone a free draw at a bigger diamond. But I want to get some action from him. He puts in the call. River card comes as a 10 of hearts. I think he has absolutely nothing, and I don't think he's going to be bluffing the river. So I decided just to bet big, make it look like a bluff. If he has something, he'll call me, but I don't expect it. Anyway, he just lets it go, and we win another teeny pot. Well, it's another deal of change, and that's right, another bomb pot. Here we're in the cutoff and we have Jack. I did not know this at the time. I did take a peek at one of my hole cards and saw that it was a Jack of hearts. And when I saw the flop come 10, 9, 7 with 2 hearts, I was thinking how sweet it would be if I had the 8 of hearts in my hand, especially when one of the action players puts out a bet for $65. There's one other player that looks like they're interested in this pot. He does decide to put in the call for the $65. He's been playing a little bit of a tighter range. And here with 2 jacks against the opener bet, I think I'm good. Against the caller, I think if he had me beat, he would be putting in a raise to protect it. So I think I'm ahead of both of them right now. Hopefully no one is going to be check raising this because that would really put me in an awkward position. I don't put a lot of value in 1 pair hands in bomb pots, but against this person who's betting from the end of the table, I think I might be good. Turn card comes as a deuce of diamonds. Doesn't help anyone unless you have like a 10 and now picked up a flush draw with it. He looks like he's ready to bet, and it looks like he was going to put a smallish size bet out, which I was planning on raising. Instead, he reaches back and grabs some green chips, and he makes it $160. I was going to put in a raise if he made a small bet and the other player called, put a little squeeze in, because I think he's more likely to have like a top pair or a drawing type hand. The other player folds out. Now I decided just to call. I think I can probably still get away with just jamming here, but let's face it, I was a little bit worried that he bet 160. River card comes as 3 diamonds. He checks it. Now I'm really worried because I thought he was going to be bluffing this if he missed, and now he's checking it. It's not like him to give up. I think I'm probably beat. I check it back. He says, I missed, and he shows Queen 8. So I show the pair of jacks. I was really surprised he didn't bluff at this hand. I was ready to call him. All right, I wasn't involved in this hand, but it went down and it turned out to be a pretty spectacular pot. So I started filming halfway through. The pre-flop action was a small raise, and then the player in seat 4 decided to squeeze from the small blind to $75, and he gets 4 callers for the $75. So it's a really bloated pot. The flop comes out as you see it, and I was just like, okay, Jack 10 7, and the small blind shoves for 500 plus dollars. The player to my left, who has like a $2,000 stack, he puts in the call. He's been playing a much tighter range, fairly conservative all day long, and has been doing fairly well. So the initial better, I'm thinking, probably has a hand like a top pair or over pair type of hand. The caller, I thought, might have a set or even 2 pair like Jack 10. And now the player at the end of the table is tanking, and he looks like he has a real tough choice to make. He also thinks that the player to my left has some sort of big hand, like a set. He has about $1,200 in his stack, and he was thinking, well, I'm either going to jam or I'm going to fold. And what I thought was that he had like king queen with some sort of backdoor flush draw. Anyway, he takes for a long time, finally decided to put in the fold because he was worried that he wasn't getting the right price to go up against someone with a set. And he wasn't too worried about the initial jammer. He thought maybe that he had a hand like ace jack or aces that might have took away some of his outs if he had king queen. So after a long tank, he folds. The other player folds out instantly. You can tell he was done with the hand. We get to see a run out that comes a blank deuce and then a king on the river. The small blind says, I only got a pair of tens, and the player to my left rolled over pocket queens. The player at the end of the table who was tanking all that time, he did say he had king queen. I was actually a little bit surprised that the player to my left only had 2 queens in this hand. With that hand, I think I would have reshoved to make sure no one was going to be calling behind me. And if they did, it would cost them all their chips. But the guy at the end of the table with the king queen, he was doing the math, and he came up with it was a fold. Can't blame him for folding, but it would have been a hell of a pot if he would have continued. Thanks for watching, guys. Really do appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. It does help out the channel grow. Makes people more likely to watch when you guys make it all the way through to the end. We end up with a $560 win, which is all right in my book. I think I could have done better if I had some good flops with my ace queens, but I didn't, and kind of misplayed a few hands. I mean, the pocket fives, that was the unforced error. You can just say it's a mini punt. I was going to give up on it if he bet a normal sizing on the end, but his small sizing enticed me to go ahead and try to raise him off of it. And then I picked a poor sizing. That's all on me. Learn from my mistakes, and so you don't make them. For the month, we're up to around $1,500, and for the year, of course, would be the same. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here soon, and until next time, good luck at the tables.